So for me, growing up, it was more of a type of thing where the father's never around, you get me? Since young age, from the age of 1, my father was locked up until, well, recently he got out, now he's working. Then my stepdad died at the age of 8 and the other stepdad left in it. So for me, it was more of spending more time with my mother in it. So you could see, from my perspective, I could see how that affects like the child's upbringing when you have only one parent taking care, well, one gender taking care of you most of your life. You get me?
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Tots.
Yeah, no, just coming from a family of immigrants, where my family moved to the US when we were very young. So because my parents didn't speak the language, didn't really know what opportunities there were outside of just some of the jobs that they, low paying jobs that they had at the time. They were working a lot to make our ends meet, to put food on the table, to uh, keep us afloat. And because of that, a lot of that kind of led to me having to grow up on my own, figuring out what the sort of rules are of, a completely different culture, and without them speaking the language or being or knowing how to sort of guide. A lot of what turned into me becoming a man today is really just through trial and error, just figuring stuff out. And some of it did come from my parents, my care for other people and wanting to help them, but a lot of it was through just trial and error, hoping I can learn from my friends and then just continue on through there.
Interesting. And just a follow up question. How did that, Tots? How did that affect you, like mentally? Did you feel more like, oh, I'm kind of frustrated. I got to figure this out on my own, or were you kind of more, I don't know, in a way, more immersed in it, where you're like, oh, let's do this. Like, this is challenging for me to learn everything on my own, but I love being able to go through this challenge and figure things out.
Yeah, I wish I never. It's kind of one of those things that you don't know what you don't have, I guess.
Mhm.
So I just assumed a lot of other kids had similar upbringings and similar dynamics. They were all just figuring it out. So
Mhm.
I never could tell that there was something missing. And
Okay.
it's not until decades later, continuing to work it out, that, oh, actually, I had to teach myself a lot of stuff. And that probably put me at a huge disadvantage compared to other people my age. Like, other people, like, I was always a terrible student. I didn't never learn how to study, never learned what it's like to just sit down and be disciplined, or, reading for fun, like, because I think it's such a valuable thing to do from an education standpoint, and you have to learn that skill, especially if you want to succeed in school. So there's a lot of things I'm noticing now too that are a result of that, which is kind of upsetting, but I just have to kind of take it for what it was and move on.
Okay. And Aksit, what was your you mentioned about, not having that male role model, present there all the time. How did that affect you? Like, what where did you kind of like what were some things you did to get through that, not having that male role model in your presence?
I don't know. For me, since young, growing up in that lifestyle, for me it was a sense of I know a lot more things that other kids my age shouldn't. You get me? So from a
Mhm.
point, it was like it just felt weird. You get me?
Mhm.
You look at different standpoint. You're like, yeah, they grew up and they grew up a nice life. They have well, the majority of things they need to have a stable family. And then you look at my side. You're like, okay. So you need to, in a sense, you're wired. You get me? You need to teach yourself discipline. You need to teach yourself how to take care of, like, just get that male essence. You get me? Because
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it. It's a sticky one.
Right, right. I get where you're coming from.